Well, hello, Dave. Welcome.
Hey,
Welcome. It's so good to see you. Welcome, everybody, to Perfectly Twisted. It's Nicole and Dave here. Thanks for tuning in.
always good to see you.
Always good to see you too, my friend. So we have a fun show today. It's a really it's kind of it's deep and it's heavy, but it's positive and it's so hopeful. But did you watch the Chris Hemsworth A Road Trip to Remember?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay. Um You were
Tell me
supposed
what.
to. You were supposed to.
Was I
Um,
supposed to? I didn't know it was homework. I thought you were going to describe it to me. I'm sorry, I dropped the
okay, well, I
ball.
will. I will describe it to you because so Chris's father, Craig, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and so he planned this road trip, and I don't want it to be a spoiler because if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go see it. But basically, he does this like therapeutic road trip for he and his father, and kind of take a trip down memory lane and see, to just a spend time and b to keep the memory going and keep the brain working.
Love
And
it.
yeah, so they uncover all kinds of fun and fascinating things. But along the way, he gets advice and he's sort of guided by Dr. Suraj Samtani, who is a clinical psychologist in the for the at the UNSW Center for Healthy Brain and Aging in Australia. And he's amazing because he really takes us along this journey with them, but kind of gives us the clinical side of things too, and why they're doing these certain things, and kind of helps Chris along with exercises that would be good and promote, brain health and all of that. So it's really touching. It was so much. At first I thought I was going to be so sad when I was watching it. I was like, oh no, but it really takes you on this amazing journey. So let me introduce Dr. Samtani. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
So, okay, so tell the people, because it's kind of amazing, because at first, so they do this whole recreation of Chris's childhood home with the father, and they go back there. But I mean, you guys went all out. They redid every like detail of it, from the furniture, the whole thing. And I was like, God, but not everybody can afford to do that. Not everybody has the means to do that. But there were other reasons and other amazing things. So tell us like what that thought process was, and what got you guys there.
It's been a really interesting journey being part of Chris Hemsworth, The Road Trip to Remember. And as a dementia researcher at the Center for Healthy Brain Aging, I know just how powerful reminiscence therapy can be. And basically, reminiscence therapy is where we use people, places, objects, even music from the past to rekindle memories that we might lose access to, in a way to keep those roads open in the brain so that we can keep accessing those memories. And the idea here was to really supercharge reminiscence therapy and recreate Chris's childhood home from when he was a teenager. So they did an incredible job. I mean, there's an actual family living there right now. So they had the family's permission to go in and actually source all the furniture, posters, every object in the house and make it feel like you're really stepping back in time. And the whole purpose of that was so that we could trigger all of these memories again for Craig and boost his memory and also his confidence.
I love it. And I love it for so many reasons, because I think a lot of people get this kind of diagnosis, as with any diagnosis, and they sort of just go with a protocol, like a medical protocol, and prescription drugs and things like that, try to spend time with the family and kind of hope for the best. And this really kind of shows how there's the human body and brain is just so powerful, and it can be such a mind over matter type of thing. And you explain how the brain is a muscle, and exercising the muscle is so important. um And I thought it was amazing. And at first I thought, okay, yeah, not everybody can do this and recreate the childhood home and all of that. But it made me think like, but if you did have access to any childhood things, that's amazing. And then B, he, has it on film, and he was explaining how not only is this him spending quality time with his dad, jogging memories for his father, but then his father can go back and watch it. Right, I thought that was amazing, and so speak to that for people who aren't Chris Hemsworth and don't have the budget of a movie. Like, what are things that you have people do in their daily lives that find themselves in this situation?
Well, that's a great question, Nicole. And I think it's really important for us to know that it's really accessible to do reminiscence therapy with your loved one. It's really easy. All you need is some old family photo albums, and that's it. You can literally get them out and go through those memories and talk about them. And every time you access a memory, it's not like replaying a video in your head. It's more like rebuilding a Lego tower. There's a process to it. And so you're building this muscle memory or building this particular shape every time you access that memory, and then becomes easier to do it in the future. And another thing that was really important for us in this documentary was to create new memories, because I love neuroplasticity, which is the fact that the brain is always making new cells and always reorganizing. So if you can make new memories that also connect to old memories in some way, it strengthens the whole network. So you could go on a trip, or go do a fun activity, even make a special meal at home and take some photos and recreate something that you did as a child. It can be really simple.
That's amazing. And what advice do you have to people who maybe get frustrated? Because I know that at different stages and at different days, patients or people with this diagnosis, sometimes they ask the same questions over and over, or they have trouble, or there's like some repetitiveness. So what would you say to people who think that they're just going to get frustrated, and that it's not doing any good? Like, what do you say to that?
I say it's really important to be kind and respect the dignity of the person living with dementia, because for them, they're saying the thing for the first time or asking for the first time. So my golden rule for everyone to remember is always respond as if you're being asked for the first time. And that doesn't just mean in the words that you say, it really important that comes across in your body language and the tone of your voice, because actually 90% of our communication is supposed to be nonverbal. So people pick up on those cues, and it's really important to always be really patient, really kind. Don't correct the person. Some people are tempted to do that. Let's not do that. And also not speak for them. Let them speak for themselves. It's important to not take away their autonomy and their voice and their dignity.
Yeah, and I thought Chris did a really good job of that. I thought I was really impressed by just how, because it's hard for the family too, right? It's hard for the loved ones as well, because it's the roles are reversing almost. And I bet that it could be heartbreaking. So I was really impressed with the way he really just kept saying how proud he was of his dad, or showing how proud he was of his dad, and how much he admired and looked up to his dad, and how much he appreciated like having a great childhood. And I just thought that was really, really admirable, and seemed like a key element.
It is such a key element, and you see Chris has so much respect and love for his dad, and he never corrects him. He never jumps in and speaks for him. If his dad's repeating something, he will just let him repeat that thing and just gently reassure him. I think he finds the right balance with his dad, and his dad's always his dad. He's not trying to take over that role, and it's really important just how much positive regard he has for his dad. You can see the way he talks to Craig, and I think we should all take that as an example.
I agree. It was the love is deep, and with the mom and the parents have been married for so many years, and you can just see all of the love, and the respect, and it's just great that they go through, they go to places, Dave, where like they used to go swimming and jumping off rocks and like recreating like childhood things. They go and visit an old neighborhood and they ride motorcycles like across bumpy roads, and they make it an whole journey out of it, and they go visit some locals that they knew, and it's just really, and it takes place, I'm sure it took a little bit longer to shoot, but it's basically just a few days, right? Maybe over a course of a week. Am I right about that? Or
Yeah, it's a few days on motorbike going through this rugged terrain in the outback. It's quite challenging territory, but this was something that was really important for them to have this time in parallel. For men, it's can be quite challenging sometimes to be vulnerable with each other, and we do better when we're doing things in parallel rather than sitting across from each other, making eye contact, having a heart to heart. But you see that the time they spend in parallel leads them to that point where they can actually sit across from each other at the campfire and finally confide in each other about what's going on. And our research shows how beneficial that is for the brain. It actually reduces your risk of dementia, also slows down the rate of cognitive decline.
you also mentioned something about people who get out and are more social, usually end up having better brain health. Explain that a little bit. Go into, because I found that interesting, because I guess it makes sense, but I would like to hear that part over again.
That's been our mission really at the Center for Healthy Brain Aging, because there's been a lot of focus on doing brain training exercises and doing physical activity. But we really know how bad loneliness is for the brain. It's as bad for our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And that comes from the Harvard study of adult development. It's the world's longest running study. It's been going for over 80 years. So we thought, well, this seems really important, but what's the recipe here for brain health? Like, what ingredients do we need from being social? What kind of interactions do we need, and with whom, and how often, to protect our brain? So that was our mission, and we brought together data for over 40,000 people from all around the world who were followed for up to 14 years, and we were tracking their rate of cognitive function and who got dementia and who stayed cognitively healthy. And even after controlling for or accounting for every risk factor we knew already, being social reduced our risk of dementia by half, which really shocked us.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Those are big numbers.
Yeah, and it was specifically two ingredients that we found that were powerful. The first one was spending time with friends and family outside the home as often as possible, because that cognitive activity does something we call social bridging. It allows us to challenge our brain and give it a workout, because every time we're talking to someone, we're practicing our memory, our language, our decision making, and it's really good for the brain. And the other thing that we found was really important was having someone to confide in, which is what you see Craig do with Chris. And that's really important, because confiding in people that we trust reduces our stress level. And we know just how bad stress is for the brain. It causes inflammation in the brain. So we want to reduce that as much as possible.
Yeah, that's truly, truly amazing, and it's something I never thought about, just because I haven't been presented with it in my life. But when I was younger, when my mother was still alive, she would do crossword puzzles all the time, and she would say, "I think that doing crossword puzzles, I'm supposed to keep my mind active," and she was always so afraid of any kind of dementia or Alzheimer's. and I don't think she ever got it. But what do you say to that? Is that also a true, or is that sort of like a an old maid's tale of doing the crossword puzzles and that sort
It's
of thing?
absolutely true. Any kind of cognitive activity is a great workout for the brain. When I think of keeping our brain healthy, I think of three ingredients. The first is staying physically active. The second is keeping your brain active, doing crosswords, listening to podcasts like this one, listening to the news, playing board games, learning a language or a musical instrument. Actually, learning a musical instrument is supposed to be the best workout for our brains. And then learning a language comes second. And then the final ingredient, of course, is staying socially active, which is what we're trying to highlight in this documentary.
How did you get involved with the entire project and with Chris? Did you know them before, or were you treating his father, or were you introduced?
It was a surprise to me because I was doing dementia research already at the Center for Healthy Brain Aging at UNSW Sydney in Australia. And I got an email one day saying, do you want to be part of this journey with Chris and Craig? And I thought I would just be an advisor as a clinician and as a scientist to the family. But then after speaking to them, they came back to me saying, actually, we want you to be in the documentary with them and film with Chris, which was a very surreal experience for scientists like me who normally is analyzing data and writing papers.
So is being in front of the camera not really something that you do? You're not a doctor that does a lot of talk shows and things then? No.
No, I mean, the only thing I'd done up to that point is a Zoom call. I don't think that counts.
Well, you wouldn't know. And I really loved your part in it, and the whole, you really filled in a lot for me, because we could watch this story between this father and son and this family, but you really explain as we go along in a very clear, precise, understanding way. And I love when you meet with him at the ball game, and you introduce it with visuals as well as explaining on how you're going to get everything, how memory and active and making new memories and being social and all of that really triggers something in the brain, which I just think that we don't have enough awareness here about that, because you hear a lot about people getting the dementia diagnosis and Alzheimer's. We see commercials for prescription pills nonstop for it. You hear about it, but I just don't, unfortunately, hear a lot of this kind of talk. And this just made me feel so happy, because I'm a big believer. I recently went through a cancer journey and just finished cancer treatment not too long ago, and I really kind of discovered all the other things that it takes besides the medical treatment side. There are so many things you can do for yourself. And I just think that this really, it really spoke to that. And I think with so many people dealing with it, I think that it's something that really needs to be heard and really, really needs just to be talked about more. I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about it.
You're right, Nicole. A lot of people don't talk about just how important it is to look after our social and emotional health. I think there's so much focus on physical health, but it's the complete package, right? We can't have physical health without social and emotional health. I think the social interactions are the glue that hold together all the rest of our health. We exercise with other people, we do activities with other people, we work with other people. We just designed as a species to constantly be social. I mean, think about what's the worst punishment you can give someone? It's solitary confinement.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that as we age, and I find myself doing it, I'll be outside and I say, I'm done with people for the day, and I want to run back to my safety net of being at home. And you can easily get caught up in that. And I know a lot of people that do that, or they just go to work and then just come home. and there's not a lot of, social life a lot of times gets left on the back burner, I feel like.
That is unfortunately something that we see people retreating into themselves and not being social. And our message to everyone is please remember how important it is to do activities with other people, especially community activities. If you have some time, even once a week or once a month, something is better than nothing. Think of a cause that you really care about and maybe volunteer. Because I think sometimes when we feel anxious to talk to other people, our focus is on how we will be perceived by others. And when we switch that spotlight onto other people, when we think about helping others, we become a lot less self-conscious because it's so much bigger than us. And that's a great way to um, be kind to ourselves and to other people all at the same time.
I love that, and I think we should all start sooner than later, before we get this, and if we start, I always say to try to live, a preventative lifestyle, and especially if is this is and excuse me for my not knowing, and but is it hereditary at all? Is this something that runs in the family?
It is hereditary. We know that about 55% of our risk is due to genetics, and
Okay.
about 45% of the risk is potentially modifiable through health and lifestyle factors. So there is a number of risk factors like smoking, drinking, and then metabolic issues like hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, and of course, physical activity. These are things that we can try to modify in our own life to reduce our risk. And it's a journey of a lifetime. We should be paying attention to our health right from early stages of life, not wait until we've hit that retirement age. It's really important.
It's true, or not until, we've received a diagnosis ourselves, and then, and not to say that there's not always time to turn it around, because there is, it's never too late, but you're right. We should be doing this, and we should be teaching our kids this and our youth this, and as a culture start to adopt this more, in my opinion.
Wouldn't that be amazing if we could have something in schools that teaches everyone, remember, to protect yourself against heart disease, cancer, dementia, everything. Be physically, cognitively, and socially active. It's such a simple recipe, and everyone can pick the type of thing they like from each category.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. And even just the idea of loving yourself and taking care of your one body that you're given. I think that's really missing and I can only speak for the United States, because that's where it's where I reside. That's where my children were educated, and I went to school. And there's really not any of that. And appreciating the body, and it showing up for you and what it does for you every day. We are so focused on picking it apart and what's wrong with it, and all the things we can improve on it, instead of, and I mean improving on the outside, um instead of just really being proud of it and nourishing it and taking care of it. And I just love that. That's what you brought into my home this morning, and I really loved it.
Well, I'm glad that you got that message, because that's definitely our message from this documentary for people, that it's never too late to look after yourself. And it's really important that you are focusing on kindness towards yourself as well, because we can't be kind towards other people, right, Nicole, if we're not being kind to ourselves. So I have a question for you as well, which is, what are you doing for yourself to look after yourself?
Well, I'm doing a lot of advocacy work so that I am speaking about what's going on with me a lot because I don't have family. I don't. I have two children, but I'm definitely not going to lay all my things on them and talk about cancer all the time with them. So I'm doing a lot of advocacy, and that way I also get to keep learning and meeting new people. Um, I I have changed my diet and my exercise. I have uh, really focused on changing my inner dialogue and my gratefulness. And my supplement lineup is unlike anybody else's I've ever seen. I just really I've detoxified as much as I possibly can. I went to the extreme for a while, and now I think I found a very healthy medium. But I very quickly learned about chemicals and products, especially here in the United States, in our candles, in our body wash, in our moisturizers, our shampoos, our beauty makeup, our food, our water. I mean, you name it. It is so hard to be healthy here. So I've really tried to just detoxify that as much as I can and show my girls and teach my girls, like, throw that silicone spatula away, get rid of the nonstick, use wood and steel, and just really kind of getting down to the basics of forgetting convenience, because I think we're so dependent on convenience. And so therefore people will grab a plastic bottle or just grab that fast food or that junk food. And we're just not nourishing ourselves. And I think that when you don't nourish yourself nutritionally, you also don't really have the brain power. Like, I have found myself being so much more open. The healthier I got, the happier I got, the more energy I got, and the more I'm open to just learning all of the things that I can possibly learn. So I'm just a little bit there. I just want to keep continuing to grow and keep learning, and just I want to do everything I can for it to not come back, and do the things that I'm learning that help the treatments that I did choose to do, to help those along, and then the things to help fight and repair from those as well. So that's just sort of where I'm at right now. I'm still really in the repair process of getting my strength back, you know, trying to get my bones strong again, my muscles back, and my brain thinking again, because it got pretty foggy for a while. And kind of all the same things that you're saying, because I think it applies for more than just uh, a dementia or Alzheimer's diagnosis. I mean, I think that when you say stress causes inflammation in the brain, I think it causes inflammation everywhere, right? And it manifests in things like cancer and all the things. So I think we're more alike than we think.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. The other insight from the Harvard study of adult development that I was talking about earlier is that being social was the one thing that delayed the onset of chronic health conditions in our life. And it pushed the start of those conditions back 10 to 15 years later. Imagine having another 15 years of life without a chronic health condition just because we were being socially active. I think it's so powerful. It's a secret sauce to healthy living that we forget about.
Yeah. And I think I forgot about it for a while too. And I got very wrapped up in being a mother and being, having to work and figure out, um, you know, eh, all of the things. And Nicole got left by the wayside. And I don't think there was a lot of social life going on. And I can attest to the happiness it has brought me. And sometimes I have to force myself. Sometimes I don't necessarily want to go be social, but every time I go, I'm usually happy that I did. Like 99.9% of the time, I'm happy that I did it.
And that's really important because as we mature, we learn to focus on more positive interactions and positive people, and we let go of interactions and people that are negative or yo-yoing. And that's what accounts for the happiness curve. Study after study shows us that we are at our happiest in our 70s, 80s, and 90s because we focus on positive people and interactions.
Because you've learned to cut away what's not good for you, what's not needed anymore, right? Yeah, that's a real thing. And that's such a freeing thing. And I started feeling that in my 50s even. And yeah, I can attest to that. I really feel like it's been so freeing to be able to say no. I don't want to, or like, no, thank you. And, putting up your boundaries and feeling good about it, not feeling guilty or feeling bad about it.
That's great. I love how assertive you're being. That's amazing.
I mean, and I do believe that positive attracts positive. So if we just keep putting positive energy, we're going to keep attracting it. Of course, we're going to have a bad day, but as long as you know that it's true and you believe in that, I see it happening.
I think it is really important to focus, especially on gratitude for our mental health. As a clinical psychologist, I often tell people, before going to bed every day, let's write down three things that we're grateful for from that day. And what that does is it trains us to focus on the good things or the okay things that happened on that day rather than the negative things, because every day is a mix of positive and negative. But if we start to look for the things that went okay or that were good, like, I went to the bus stop and the bus was still there, I didn't miss it, even small things like that, or that morning coffee was really nice, or I really enjoyed catching up with this friend for lunch at work, or whatever it was. It's really, really small things that can change the way we look back on our day, and it trains our brain to be more grateful and more positive.
I was just reading something about exactly what you're talking about. And the more you focus on the positive things, then the more likely you are to see the positive things. Right? So yeah, you can train the mind that way, which I think is just amazing. That's just such a beautiful concept.
Yeah, so on that note, I guess I want to ask both of you, what's something from today that you're grateful for?
You go ahead, Dave.
All
I've
right,
done
I'll
a lot
tell
of
you.
talking.
You know what? It's the holiday season, and I'm grateful my son's in town, so I get a chance to speak with him, every day during this time of year. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
I love that. And it's social too. Amazing.
I mean, I'm grateful that my daughter does not have cheer today and I get to see her at a normal hour. I get to spend time with her after school, not 6, 7 o'clock at night. I get to see her at 2:30, 3 o'clock. And then I am traveling in the morning to go speak on a panel about my cancer diagnosis, and I feel like I'm needing that lately. I've been needing to talk about it and be around other like-minded people, and so I'm really grateful for that because I feel like the timing of it is really just needed. It's not forced. It's not. So it's definitely not a coincidence, and so I'm excited. I'm excited to travel and learn some more.
That's wonderful. I feel like you're going to be spending time with a lot of people and giving back and, being social, but in a really helpful way to other people. And you see that in the documentary as well, how much Craig helped everyone around him. And that's why he's built this social reserve, is what we call it. It's this network of people that we can rely on because they can rely on us, and building that reserve over a lifetime is sort of like, I think of it like watering your plants in your house. You can't just water them sometimes. You've got to be really consistent at watering them every every week so that they grow and they flourish. And that's how we should treat all our friendships and our relationships, is that constant love and kindness.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you know what? A friend of mine who I recently lost, she lost her battle with cancer, but she would say to me, Nicole, always water the garden, and also don't be afraid to pull the weeds. You always got to pull the weeds when you water the flowers. And I thought, you know what? That's really smart, because she's right. Otherwise, it gets overgrown with weeds.
She's totally right. Comes back to what we were just talking about with the happiness curve and focusing on positive people and interactions. Definitely. Let's choose to focus on positive interactions. And it's okay to say no. It's learning about what's good for us.
And also, I want to say I was not having the best day. If I'm going to be completely honest with both of you right now, I was not having the best day today. It wasn't particularly bad. Just my spirits weren't as high as they normally are. And I felt like so tired. I just felt very drained today. And I feel like meeting you and talking to you really shifted my energy.
Well, I'm
So
glad.
I'm grateful for you.
No, I'm grateful to be here. And if I can suggest one small thing
Yes.
for you, I would like you to just try this exercise with me to feel how healing social connections. I want you to close your eyes for 30 seconds and I want you to think to a connection that brings you joy. And you feel your body filled with this golden light, this it feels like sunlight, warm, bright, spacious feeling that comes with the power of social connection. And it's so good for our body and for our brain. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you've not seen the documentary, it is called Chris Hemsworth, A Road Trip to Remember. It's on Nat Geo. I watched it on Disney Plus. Um, Definitely give it a shot. It's so much more than you expect it to be. There's so many layers to it. It's very sweet. Um, and it's just beautiful. It's smart. It's got so much good information. And Dr. Samtani, thank you so much. And thank you for just shedding all your knowledge and all your light.
Thank you, Nicole and Dave. Great to meet you both. I hope you keep doing what you're doing because you're doing all the right things, and it's so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So nice. Thank you.
That was really neat. That was really neat. So in my family, we've dealt with dementia and Alzheimer's,
Oh,
and my mother-in-law's last 4 years, 5 years of her life, she moved in with us, and she used to always say that was the one thing she was fearful of as she got older. She didn't want to lose her mind, and as she as it got worse and worse, and the thing is with Alzheimer's is that you don't realize always that where you're at as far as forgetting that you've already told that story. And as she got older, the stories would almost loop without ever stopping. Would go to a point, then it would start all over again, and it just would go. And I used to always say it was sad because this is the one thing in life she didn't want. And he said something interesting at the beginning, Nicole, is my wife has 4 siblings and none of them handled it well. And they asked her as she was starting to struggle and she realized she couldn't be on her own, which sibling do you want to live with, or which child do you want to live with? And she chose my wife, who's the youngest of the 5. Well, she chose correctly. She chose the one who wasn't going to get upset with her. And he said, don't get upset with the person. Unfortunately, all the other ones would get upset to the point they'd raise their voice and they would yell. And the frustration was they were losing their mom. They weren't really mad at her, but my wife was the one that was understanding and made the progression through everything easier, I think, on her, as she basically saw her last days. Was she wasn't in a room where she felt pressure because people were screaming at her. She didn't understand why people were mad at her or getting upset with her. And so when he
yeah.
said be nice and act like it's the first time you heard it, that's not always easy. It's not always easy, but she picked the right child for sure to wrap up her years.
That's beautiful. And thank God that she had your mom.
Yeah, and so it's tough. I think a lot of us are fearful. I don't know. I remember when I was younger, I'd say probably around 15 years old, first time I ever heard about Alzheimer's. I didn't know about it. My grandmother, um, got it, and then it was unusual to see in person. But it's scary. I think all of us, as we get older, it's probably one of our biggest fears is, am I going to lose my mind one day and lose my memories? Have you ever been tempted? By the way, you've had such an interesting life as far as childhood and becoming well known in TV shows and movies. Have you ever been tempted to go back and film and take pictures and walk your daughters through certain parts of even California that were important to you, or where your memories are?
Well, we're down there we're in Huntington
Yeah.
Beach all the time, and
You tell
we go.
stories about where you were on like, I've always been tempted to almost make my own video scrapbook of, this is the house I lived in. This is where my grandmother, who I love so much, lived. And this is what, you know what I mean? Just for myself. I love what Chris Hemsworth did for his dad, but almost every human being, as far as a memory lane, a scrapbook, now you can do everything on your phone. It's so easy to do, just taking the time to actually do it, not say I'll get to it.
Well, it's interesting because when my mom passed, I inherited everything. So I have all the pictures, and my father built the house that I grew up in. So we have pictures of it from when it was, the dirt lot to, me growing up in it. And I have all those pictures. And then I had a lot of stuff digitized. During when I was producing the documentary, we digitized a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, I have boxes of pictures and things, and I drive by the house sometimes. And, listen, my friends from childhood still live there. A lot of them still live there. So I'm still there. Or my stepmom lives there. My bonus mom lives there. So we still, and then when the kids want to go to the beach, a lot of times they want to go there because it's just been part of their upbringing as well. So yes, I'm
Cool.
hoping that would continue.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think about it at all? Are you fearful as far as, what happens if I'm in my 80s and I forget, I think for my wife, her biggest fear was her mom was going to forget her name. And we never got to that point. That would have been bad. That would have been a bad one.
Well, you say something, this term that I hate, losing my mind. But then but after just watching the documentary and talking to Dr. Samtari, it sounds like you can do the opposite of losing your mind. You can work on keeping your mind. So now that terminology doesn't make me so offended.
Yeah.
But it's not really something I ever put a lot of thought into, except when I started getting what they call like the chemo brain or the chemo fog, and my brain would just go blank. It was so frustrating. It was so frustrating because I had never experienced anything like that. And I felt too young for this to be happening. And I still will stall. But this could just be my age too, with chemo on top of it. I don't really know. So I just try to not be too hard on myself when I'm struggling to remember anything or I'm fighting for my words.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more grace I have with myself, the easier things come. But it is sort of a scary thing. It really is. And I don't want to be, and I think a lot of people fear this. They don't want to be a burden to their kids either,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
There's so many factors. But I think, again, this is something that if we focus on a preventative lifestyle and we start taking actions and taking steps, they don't have to be an entire life overhaul all at once. But if we start making those moves, we can make a difference.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, great episode. Great episode. I definitely recommend the documentary. It will make you look at Chris Hemsworth totally different. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. Well done.
On Disney, you said, correct?
Yeah, you can watch it it's Nat Geo, and you can watch it on Disney Plus.
Okay. Good deal. I'll watch it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we will see you next week.